to get some drivers on the horn here and find out what their thoughts are on this whole speed limiter rigmarole, if you will. With me today, I've got H&M driver Tom Woods back on the show. What's up, Tom?
How you guys doing today?
Oh, man, I can't complain. It's too early in the morning. Just give me a little bit of time, Tom. I'll figure something out.
You need some coffee. Get this guy a coffee. Get him a shot of Patron or something.
There you go. That sounds right up my alley. Also joining us today here is H&M driver Justin Shearer. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to get you guys on today to talk a little bit about speed limiters because as I was poking around, just doing my research on the industry, I did see something that was proposed back in the fall where the the DOT ruffled some feathers suggesting that commercial vehicle speeds would soon be limited to 68 miles per hour on interstates and highways. Of course, there was a ton of backlash to that, so they took the number away. They redacted it. But in my research here, I found that not only was 68 miles an hour listed as a possible speed, 65 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and even 58 miles an hour were listed as a possible mandated speed for trucks. Tom, I'm going to start with you here. I am wondering, first off, what you think about speed limiters in general. I know H&M is at 70 miles an hour, but how do you feel about this legislation? Do you think it's something that they're going to try to push through? And as a driver, how does that concern you?
Well, legislature is probably going to push it through. They're going to do what they're going to do anyways. Really nothing we can do about it. And what it is, these big companies out here, Warner and Crete and J.B. Hunt and Walmart, those people who are hurting this industry. The buy point, 68 miles an hour is still too slow. I honestly think these trucks are rated to run 75 miles an hour. I think our trucks should run 75 miles an hour, and we should be out here be able to run the speed limit. The further you go west, the higher the speed limit is. I've seen it up to 85 miles an hour out in Texas. I don't understand how these people are saying, hey, you got to run, the insurance says you got to run this, the insurance says that. 90% of your trucking industry out here, your big companies, own their own insurance. What they're doing is they're listening to people and they're saying, well, you could do this if you run your trucks at this speed, or you're going to save this much fuel. I have talked to people out here over the road, owner ops, by the way, that's got the big trucks. We're talking about the KWs and the W900s, the W900s and the 379Ps. Well, guess what? They're using probably an extra gallon of gas or diesel, say, for doing their trip per mile, maybe an extra gallon per mile. Yes, that's a little bit of a cost increase on fuel and for speed, but if you do the speed limiter, it's just going to cause more accidents out here. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And you're not the first person to have that opinion. Actually, earlier on in the show, we talked to Executive Vice President of H&M, Dale Cook, and he brought up some really good points about it. One of them that I hadn't even thought of was closing speed. It's got to be, you really have to be paying attention. If you're a four-wheeler out there doing 85 legally, and there's a truck in the right lane doing 58 because that's as fast as they're legally allowed to go, I mean, you got to wonder if you'll even have a chance to react to that when you see it, if you're coming around a bend or something like that. So I do see, in the backups, Dale called it the snail race. When one truck's doing 58 and a half and the other one's doing 58, they're going to back up traffic for miles behind them because they can't accelerate even a couple miles an hour to get past that truck they're trying to pass. So
absolutely. Now you do understand weight difference. The truck's passing me right now, going down the road right now. But I'm running my speed limit 60. I'm running actually 67. So I'm going down the road. This guy right here, he don't have a load on, but I do, and I'm going down the road. And my truck's a little slower, but his is just a little bit faster. And he comes around me. What if it's the opposite? Or what if we're both trying to pass because maybe he goes 2 miles an hour faster than I do because maybe they did set the speed limiter at 68, and maybe H&M decided to drop theirs down to 66, and maybe my truck weighs a little bit more than yours or a little bit lighter. So that means I get down the road, so you're still going to have that problem these trucks just going to say, I can beat you. I can get down the road faster than you can. And they're really, well, all we're doing is out here fighting each other, you know?
Right. Justin, how do you feel about this possible speed limiter legislation?
Yeah, I agree. I think all this is going to do is plug up the highways and byways more than it already is.
How much of a difference do you think 2 miles an hour would make, Justin? Now, you guys are, like we said earlier, H&M's got them governed at 70. If you're governed down to 68, how much of a difference does that make in your day?
In a day, probably not too many miles, but we're not going to run as many miles as we could at 70 or 75 miles an hour in a day.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it makes you more or less safe out there having that 2 miles an hour taken away from you?
No, I don't think it makes it more or less safe. I think that, going back to the four-wheelers, we're going to be plugging up the highways, and there's going to be a lot more accidents on the road because they're going to start passing us on the shoulder and all this other stuff because they're impatient most of the time.
Yeah, that's probably the best word ever used to describe four-wheelers, at least in my experience. I can't even imagine what it's like for you guys out there.
It's horrible sometimes, especially in traffic.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, you can tell a four-wheeler going down the road that somebody in their family, or maybe they're slow down and give you that flashlight to get you to come on over to get around another vehicle, another truck. You can tell there's some of those people out there, but that's one in probably 1,000.